It's time to get incredible. Hello everyone and welcome to Walt Disney Wednesday, the long-awaited return. I know. I wanted to talk about the Incredicoaster because I know it just opened on Saturday and I wanted to talk about it. I know I'm probably the last person to say anything about it. I figured I'd give you my honest opinion on it and to give you an idea of exactly what to expect once you get into the Incredicoaster. I love the new queue area. What I think makes it so cool, better than what California Screamin' was, is it adds that nice 60s like future modernist design that the Incredibles movies had, and I really liked that feel just because it adds future elements, but it also adds a little bit of a good vintage feel to it, especially with the intro or the opening of the Incredicoaster, because it has a lot of bricks to it, but it's got that nice big angular statement piece, and that's what adds a lot to it. Another design element that I thought was very interesting and a very smart move is, again, you don't want to create attractions assuming everyone knows the stories or who the characters are, and so they added these walls that have every single character listed and gives you a little bit of a backstory as to who they are, and it paints a little bit of a picture so you kind of know what to expect when you go on the experience, which is super cool. And then you've got the actual queue video. This video was there at the beginning for California Screamin' for a little bit, and then it disappeared. But for this one, I think it needed to happen because it sets up the story perfectly. So the story of the Incredicoaster is that the Incredibles are getting a brand new roller coaster dedicated to them called the Incredicoaster, which we're going to ride. But the only problem is that Jack, the smallest of all the family, is a little too short to ride the ride. So Edna Mode, the Incredibles exclusive designer, agrees to sit this one out so she can watch the one, the only Jack. Only problem is that if you haven't seen The Incredibles 2, spoiler alert, Jack has powers, and so that's when the problems ensue. So the story is that there's a brand new coaster and the Incredibles are given the opportunity to go ride this coaster. Unfortunately, Edna Mode and Jack, Edna Mode is the Incredibles exclusive designer. Jack is their youngest little baby who in The Incredibles 2, spoiler alert, has powers. If you are not familiar with that, you wouldn't have known that whole thing, that he has powers, which is super cool, but that is highlighted in the queue video, which I think is super important, as well as it's a really good idea that the idea of the family is represented, because I think that was a huge point in both Incredibles 1 and 2, that family is super important. And then you go into the actual loading dock. Now I think that the loading dock is a little bit more cleaner, more sophisticated. There's a mural if you're looking at the actual station, it's on the right hand side, that's well done. And if you've seen Incredibles 2, you kind of already get an idea of what is the mural representing, especially there's the raccoon from Incredibles 2 that's in there, that's in an emergency exit right on top of it, which is a super cool little detail that you can add, as well as cookies. Cookies plays a huge role, especially in Incredibles 2. Once you get into the vehicle itself, now I happen to really like the new vehicles because they're just a nice red with a little bit of purple and oranges, and especially the yellow, because that's some of the signature colors within the Incredibles. And then you dispatch into the ride. Now I think that this was a cool move to have, to actually have a set where you can see Jack kind of disappearing, and then Edna's like, oh, I got him, just kidding. And that's where the fervor starts to begin. You're like, oh, we're going, here we go. And then that is where Dash takes you, and he basically gets a running start, grabs your vehicle, and you see him run down the launch. Now with the launch in particular, I think the launch could have been a little bit better. I think it was done in a very interesting way. I think it should have, I don't know how quite to explain. I think it should, the launch should have started further back, so you can kind of see him running a little bit, to kind of get you an idea that he is grabbing you and you're going. That would have worked out a little bit better, because there are some sound effects that just didn't almost match with that launch, and so I think it would have been better if he had started further back and launched forward. then you could totally see it. It would have been super cool. Now, moving through. So you go up the first tower and you see Dash up against the tower, or the tunnel itself, with Jack-Jack's laser beams flying through, and you immediately go in, which is even cooler because it's like, whoa, it's like right there, and you're moving super fast. So that was really cool. It's a story that is fast-paced. For like 2.5 minutes, they tell like a really good solid story with this whole thing. And as you're going in between tunnels, you can hear them, especially after the first tunnel.
Did you get it? He just disappeared! Maybe it's teleported to the next tunnel. Got it!
And you go up the thing, and you go up, and you see Mrs. Incredible's stretching, trying to grab him, and he turns into goo. There's a point in this particular tower as you're going up. If you're like me, I hate when something high up stops or goes too slow or it moves in a way to where you just want to get out of there and it's not going the pace you should. That was how I felt with that one, because it was just, it's like it was slowing up enough to where you could see it all happening and then go down, and I freaked out a little bit, but I think with time it'll get a little better because I'm not used to hearing it like that all moment happening. And then you go down to the other side of that second tunnel, and it's Mr. Incredible trying to give him a cookie, which I think is a funny, obvious nod. Then you go around, and then you get to the loop. Violet, use your force fields, and then you see Jack basically turning into fire, and that is where her force fields come up, and you see her right at the edge of the tunnel, and I freaked because I was like, am I gonna hit that thing? Which is the weirdest feeling you should ever feel. And you come around, and then, oh, he's multiplying, and that's when the bunny hills stop. With that particular one, you have to see it at night, and the reason is because there's an effect at night where it's lighting him up, so it looks like he's actually multiplying. I also felt that just having him stand there on like basically a stick looks really weird. It would have been really cool if they were like in like a box and they just shot up and just did that. That would have looked really cool, or having them hover, and I realize it's moving fast, but having the thing hover or doing something along those lines would have looked, I think, better in my personal opinion, because it kind of looks weird just having the babies just on a pole. As you're coming back into the station, you have the little thing where he is now blown up into this huge baby, and Nenemo's standing there with a cookie. So now overall, I think the ride for what it is fantastic. I love the new effects. I love the fact that they were able to do a story in about 2.5 minutes. It's fantastic. It's really great. Now, what are some things that I think the Imagineers could have done better on? I think in general, I would have liked to have seen the figures move. The figures basically stand still and don't really do anything. Jack is, I think, the only thing that actually does things, and the reason is because he has so many powers that you have to have him animating, or else you don't get the idea that he can do all these different things across. I also think that if you are to ever ride this ride it at night, and the reason is because the effects just look better in the darkness, and in night everything looks more seamless. It's just moving around and it just fits perfectly. But I think overall the Edna mode should have been moving. Jack at the end should have been moving. I think even if Elastigirl and a couple of them just like moved their mouths, or just like moved like, oh my god, like, or shook a little bit, it would have added something more to the overall experience of it. But it doesn't really trump anything. I had a blast. It was a fun experience. I love the design that they went with it, because it stays true to The Incredibles and the story and the design that the movies had, and so I have no problems with that. I want to know from you, what were some of your thoughts of the Incredicoaster? Have you been on it yet? Did you like it? Do you agree? I just want to know what you think. If you haven't been on it yet, please tell me what you are excited to see, and hopefully that this review doesn't change your thoughts about the Incredicoaster. So thank you so much for watching this special episode of Walt Disney Wednesday. If you liked the video, please do not forget to like and subscribe down below. If you wish to see more content from me, please feel free to visit any of those thumbnails on the side, and visit the links in my description to all of my social media. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, my name is Forrest. Remember, Pinky. Peace!